Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Player X here with the Semi Limited Podcast. As usual, just want to thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Whether it be showing love on all of our social sites, whether you're sharing the podcast with your friends, having a blast, making fun of all the crazy takes and ramblings of crazy people you might be hearing. But we appreciate it all nonetheless. So thank you guys so much for making the podcast exactly what it is, one of Yu-Gi-Oh! Community's pivotal TCG podcasts. Before we get into today's episode, we have a special guest. We're going to be going over maybe a little bit about how this guy got into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, as well as considering talking about defined versus undefined formats, one of the great debates, and then the qualifications to what makes a card necessarily quote unquote good. We're going to be getting into all of these goodies and more. But before so, as usual, we have all these plugins we want to do really fast. So before we get started, please go to that Linktree link in the description box below to follow all of our social sites. You can click on it. A tab will pop up with all of the social sites like YouTube, maybe our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook groups, as well as the distributors for all of the podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, as well as Spotify. So you can go down there, click subscribe, follow, the notification bell, whatever you guys got in, and make sure you're following and a part of all of the action going on over here. Also, congrats to all the giveaway winners last week. We had a whole bunch of them, one for YouTube and one for Instagram, for hitting both of those goals. So thank you to all for supporting. Another giveaway will be occurring when we hit 50 followers on TikTok, which we're getting pretty close to. 100 on Twitter/X, or whatever the fuck you guys want to call that app nowadays. And then 200 when we hit Instagram and YouTube, since those were the 100 ones that we just gave away. So be sure to follow, have your friends follow, and make sure that you guys are following those social sites so that way you stay up to date on when the next giveaway is and how you guys can enter. Shout outs to Unplugged Gaming in Manlius, New York for sponsoring the podcast. Be sure to join their Discord server, also in the description box below, to be a part of all of their TCG communities, whether it be Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is by far the best one, One Piece, which just got slandered for trying to be Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lorcana, the new one, whatever you guys want, they have a TCG community down there for you. So be a part of it, get your trades on, get your talk on, and meet in store. And if you guys do show up to the store, be sure to tell them that the boys over at Semi Limited sent you, because they will be sure to hook you guys up. Last but not least, we have Brad, aka Mr. Perfect, live streaming on Twitch every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the East Coast of the United States for those who are outside of the U.S. His Twitch will be in our link, which is also down below. It'll be right above where our Twitch stream is because he is affiliated with the channel. So you can catch him there every Saturday night at 11 o'clock doing deck profiles, deck theories. He's grinding Master Duel. I was on there with him last week, and we were battling for OTS packs. He actually wound up kicking my shit in the entire time. I don't know what was going on. I played 2 Cashier rounds and 2 Sprite rounds, and he just massacred me both games. It was just not a fun time for me. But, he got some OTS packs, and he pulled them on stream for everyone. So be sure to go check those out to see what we pulled. And also, if you guys are checking him out, be sure to interact with him, because everything that happens on his stream comes back to me and our Friday night wrap up. But getting into today's episode, we are joined by a special guest. This guy has been in the YouTube/Yu-Gi-Oh! Community for quite some time. We were chit-chatting in the lobby. He was telling me some of the events he's gone to in the past. And they definitely start with the words 2000 and instead of 2010 or 20 even. So this guy's kind of old. But be sure to give a round of applause for West Coast legend and Yu-Gi-Oh! Personality, SlimYGO.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely, man. Love to have you on. Appreciate it. Now we got the East Coast, West Coast thing kind of going on. Some
Absolutely.
different perspectives. So do you have any links or any plugins that you want to talk about real quick or get off the chest? Maybe shout some people out before we get into today's episode?
Yeah, sure. I got you. Like I said, the channel name is SlimYGO. Those of you that have been following me for a while, I was actually known back in the day as Slim X Team Symmetry, and then I did eventually change my name down the line. And yeah, most people just call me Slim. That's been my nickname since the very beginning. And honestly, just like main shout outs are, of course, my fiance. She supports me in all that I do, so I appreciate
Hey,
her the
yes,
most.
that's right.
And then, of course, I always got to shout out my brothers, Johnny and James. Those are my boys. Like, I always shout them out. Like, me and Johnny and James, we go as many events as possible. It's us three everywhere.
And that's Asian Persuasion, right? For those who
Asian
don't know.
Persuasion, for anyone
Yep.
who don't know, he predates me by a couple years too. Asian Persuasion 2008, who recently got his first YCS top at YCS Indy. I gotta plug that too because I was so
Oh,
happy.
absolutely. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He called me. He called me, keeping me updated as soon as he got it. Like, I mean, I wasn't able to go to the event. I was actually in Seattle at the time, but he called me, and I mean, I just was screaming. I was so happy for him. You know, he's been chasing it for a while, and honestly, it motivates me to push for my YCS top. So really, just I
Mm,
appreciate him and my brother James and my brother Pete Navarro too. Those of you who know Pete, he's actually a West Coast legend too, as far as players go. One of the best players in Southern California, and he's like my main plug whenever it comes to cards. And yeah, he's just they're all family, so I have to shout them out, of course, because
there you go.
when it comes to
Absolutely.
this game, like you really do meet some of your like lifelong friends, and like for sure, those three have been with me since day one, and we just keep going. We're the dueling grandpas now. We're
Yep.
all getting up there, but we're doing
Now
our
you're all
thing.
Yugi's grandpa.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Of course, my main sponsors are, of course, Gem. You guys already know Gem Play Mats. A shout out to Brandon. Appreciate you. Always hooking
Hmm.
it up. And then Dragon Shield sending me more sleeves than I know what to do with. They're awesome too. Those are really like my main two. I mean, I have a TCG player link, but everybody does. So yeah, that's one of those things. But as like the sponsors that do send me stuff, I really do appreciate Gem and Dragon Shield. Just always hooking it up. So those are my main
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to have the sponsors that are bigger entities that kind of believe in like the little guy, kind of like us, because we shout out our unplugged sponsor all the time, and even if it is something as simple as giving a box every once in a while when the new set drops, or giving a pack of sleeves, or like something little to give away, like that does make all the difference as far as like getting people engaged, getting people talking and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So like it kind of does help in the little ways more than most people might think. So definitely shout out to all the sponsors out there, as you said, Gemtech and Dragon Shield, as well as Unplugged Gaming.
Absolutely.
Speaking
I
of that,
think, yeah.
congrats on your wedding too.
Oh,
It
thank you,
seems like a
thank you.
lot of YouTubers are starting to get tied at night off. Ironically, I know Spanko YGO just actually got engaged. I know Kemi's actually talking seriously with his girl. People like Brian and Logan are obviously basically damn near Commonwealth married, or you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
pretty
So,
much. They'll be next.
so yeah, exactly. That'll be a really big Yu-Gi-Oh wedding, I tell you that. You
Yeah,
always see the
wink,
memes
wink,
of people
Brian.
playing Yu-Gi-Oh at people's like weddings, but that'll be one where
Yeah.
I think everyone's kind of playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and like I don't think there'll be one person. If you're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you're looked at as the weird one, type
Yeah,
deal.
yeah. Yeah, they can have that one for sure.
Also, we were chit chatting too. For those who don't know, like Slim has the channel on YouTube, as he was mentioning, that does a lot of deck profiles, a lot of discussion videos, which is what really kind of got me in there because I like hearing other people's thoughts. But tell the audience as far as like what got you into Yu-Gi-Oh, what got you into creating your Yu-Gi Tube channel, and what kind of started things off, because you've been around for a while too.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying, not to say that that's a bad thing, but like you've just had a lot more of a seasoned approach to the retrospect. You've kind of seen the community grow from
Yeah.
something as little as short YouTube videos to these big channels getting like hundreds of thousands of followers and like supporters. So like tell us a little bit about like what not only got you in Yu-Gi-Oh but kept you around Yu-Gi-Oh for this long, especially doing YouTube as your career.
Right, right. So, for me, yeah, like I mean, I'm gonna date myself, but it's fine. Like I've been playing the game since 2002, since it did come out. Like it's just been something that, and I mean, I think everybody kind of has a similar story. If you're kind of in my age bracket, and I say that because, of course, I'm like a hardcore '90s kid. Like I'm from the '90s, so
Yeah.
anyone in that bracket who got into Yu-Gi-Oh around the time, like when it came out in 2002, it started with the Yu-Gi and Kaiba deck, and it went from being on the school playground to where my friends, we had collected Pokemon, we had collected Digimon, we had
Yeah.
collected Dragon Ball Z, we had gone through all the different card games, never really playing. Like to be honest, it was just for collection purposes. It was never
Yeah, it was just a look
anything
at the shiny pieces of
for
cardboard.
real. For real, like
Mm-hmm.
that's all it was. I wanted to collect my favorite Pokemon. I wanted to collect my favorite Digimon. I love Dragon Ball Z, and I remember just being obsessed with the Cell Saga, and I wanted the Cell Saga cards. I didn't care
Yeah.
about playing them. I just wanted the cards from that because to me, the Cell Saga, hands down, is my favorite saga in all of Dragon Ball Z. It is just everything to me. Like when people tell me Dragon Ball Z, I tell them, oh yeah, the Cell Saga, like the androids, the Cell Saga, the Cell games, that was peak DBZ for me personally.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
And then my friends one day just like showed up in their binders. They had these new cards basically saying it was Yu-Gi-Oh. I was like, what's Yu-Gi-Oh? They're like, there's a show, go check it out. I went and did that, came back, was like, yo, that's kind of cool. I didn't really watch the show. Like I just kind of saw like images of it and stuff. I was like, okay, cool. My homie actually just said, you know what, I'm gonna go get you a starter deck. And I remember he told me, he's like, do you want a blue dragon or a purple magician? And
Purple Wizard.
yeah, purple wizard, yeah, purple magician, like something like that. And I love blue. That's my favorite color. So I was like, yo, of course I gotta have the blue dragon. So he brings he the next day of school gives me the deck. I'm like, oh, cool. First card is Blue Eyes White Dragon. I'm like, oh, this is probably the coolest card ever. The next day, after school, I go and see the show, and miraculously enough, like I believe I did see it was early on, like it was early on in the Duelist Kingdom, like the first season. And I just remember, I don't remember what episode it was precisely, but they summoned Blue Eyes White Dragon. And I was like, oh shit, I have that card. And
Oh
I
shit!
just thought,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought, yo, this has got to be the coolest card ever. And I just, yeah, after that, I just kind of, just was like, okay, cool. We would play each other on the playground. Now, granted, I went to a school where, if they could take away your cards, they would.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
There were some
so
inappropriate ones, I guess.
you know what it was? It was a load of bull, to be honest.
The
Like
harpy ladies were always sus.
yeah, and the thing was is like if you think back to like 2002, it was only the starter decks, excuse me, not even structured decks. It was the starter decks, and it was Legend of Blue Eyes. You didn't have, like, I don't even think the harpies were out. I don't even think Harpy Lady
They
was
probably
in.
weren't.
Yeah, in LOB.
Not
You
the
basically
original, yeah.
you basically had dragons, you had knights like Celtic Guardian, Flame Swordsman. You had dudes with swords. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, like I went to a Catholic school, so they're gonna find any excuse to get rid of that stuff. So we ended up. Now this is just showing you how crazy we were. We would play in the bathroom.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not even
definitely was
joking.
super low key.
We would
Just
be
getting.
like in the I mean, you had to do what you had to do because it was not something you could play like in a classroom. You couldn't play it you could try to play it on the like the schoolyard, away from people who were playing like sports and stuff and all of that. And don't get me wrong, I was a sports player too, all that, but like I loved playing cards.
Yeah,
I
playing
kind of
cards. Yeah.
I dabbled in both, and like I just remember it got to the point where they made an announcement that like all card games were just like not allowed. So it's just like, oh well, that sucks. So we we would, I didn't really play in the
Guess we're
bathroom.
going over to Johnny's house.
Yeah. So funny thing about that is, I was born and raised in the Bay Area, so in Northern California, and Johnny is actually from Wichita, Kansas. For a lot of people who don't know.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, we are not in the same state. We are not even in the same coast. Like, so a lot of people do get confused. A lot of people will think that either one of us is from the other's area. It's not actually true, but it's really cool, like how we came together like over the years. I actually met Johnny at YCS Long Beach, 2012, the biggest YCS to date. It was over like 4,000 players. And that was the first time I met him, like when he was the biggest channel actually for Yu-Gi-Oh back then. It was actually crazy because Asian Persuasion was
Oh
like one of
wow.
he was like the OG along with MCO 40, shout out to Robbie. And then back in the day there was Pause Joker, there was a lot of the old school YouTubers, and Pause Joker doesn't make content anymore. He actually owns a shop in Hemet, California, in Southern California. So he actually did go the business route. He had a booth at Frankenstein's, which was a giant warehouse also in Southern California. And Pierre ended up just going the route of doing like the business stuff. Like he ends up
Yeah,
owning the
cool.
shop. I believe they hold locals there. It's pretty far out, to be honest, if you're not really familiar with Southern California. But if you're around that area, it's definitely a place to go check out, because it's just cool to me that he ended up going that route and it being
Yeah.
successful. But
It's funny because I didn't know you guys were friends either. Because I
yeah,
follow your channel,
yeah,
and I also follow Asian Persuasion.
yeah.
And it wasn't until I think you guys were at one of like the YCSs, and you guys, both of their profiles, for people who don't know, they do a lot of heavy deck profiles of bigger events, weird things that top and shit like that. So you guys do deck profiles, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I see the same cover photo for both like videos. Well, not the same one, but like a little variance, but like more or less
Yeah.
like you guys just took a picture, shared it to both of you guys, and then edited it how you
Yep.
both edited it.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, why do these look like the same video? So I'm watching both of these videos and I'm seeing it, and then you guys always do the lean a little bit to the right, tilt
Yep.
the
To
camera,
show each
show
other.
the other one,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
like, damn, that's crazy. All these years I've been following both of
Yeah.
them, and I didn't know that they were good friends like this. Like I just
Yeah.
thought that was just some random guy also trying to get a deck profile until I
Yeah. No.
realized that. So it's funny how things work, how small the world really is.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Johnny's really like one of my best friends in the whole world. Like we are brothers. We are like blood. He's actually one of the best men in my wedding. Like he is like he's like my rock when it comes to having real friends. Like we're
That's what's
all we're
up.
all very we're all very very close. And yeah, that's
Did
really
he
just
make you
one
want to
thing.
get into YouTubing?
Honestly, I got into it like more so back when I was on a team. I was on a team when I was in it was around like 2011, so I was actually in college, and
Yeah,
my
you want to
college
shout him
was
out?
oh yeah, it was Team Purple Panda. Honestly, like to say those words, to say that team, like it's just super nostalgic because it's like
Yeah, see?
that's where everything started. And my old captain had a channel which I never knew about. I actually was not big on YouTube, like looking on YouTube for things. Like I'd look things up every once in a while. And then I just don't know what happened. I think someone told me about Yu-Gi-Oh being on YouTube, and I looked it up, and miraculously I actually found my team captain had a channel, and I started watching video after video, and I was like, dang, I was like, he's talking about the game, he's showing the cards. That looks so dope. Like I want to try that out. So I ended up making my own like extension of that channel. And then there were some riffs. Like I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like that we had some riffs.
Well,
Like
yeah, there's always
we
that.
eventually had a falling out, and it is what it is. Like I didn't let it kind of I didn't let it hurt me or anything. Like I just he we kind of just went our separate ways, and that's where Slim X Team Symmetry came from. I originally started as Slim X Team Purple Panda, and then after we had our falling out, I remade what the channel is today as Slim X Team Symmetry, because I made Team Symmetry, and the name is kind of dumb when I think about it, but it came from the fact that two of us were playing the same deck and the other two were playing the same deck, so we had perfect
Yeah,
symmetry. So that's kind of where the name came from.
I
But
feel you.
yeah, but
Yeah, you got you
yeah, no,
got you got to get creative where you can. Those play on
oh
words
yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
actually makes a difference.
and it was surprising because I look back and I think, my God, that's such a long name. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
such a long name. Like when you see how short channel names are these days, like it's a lot
Yeah.
easier to remember, a short name versus a longer name. But that's really like the what got me into it. And I just, I was fortunate enough to, over the years, go to a lot of events. And I worked with ARG back in the day, so I went to a lot of events. I got to know, I mean, we always joke about it, but whenever there's a top cut at a YCS, like Johnny and I probably know about 95% of the people in the top cut, because usually
Yeah.
it's the same customers, it's the same top players, and we know them. Whether we've profiled them, whether we've talked with them, whether we vibe with them, whether we played them, like we know the majority of people in the community. And then for the people we don't know, we get the chance to know them. And then usually when someone tops their first time, unless they stop playing, a lot of times they become a repeat topper, and we've already got that connection with them. So we just kind of end up knowing everybody, with each event that passes. So that's always cool. But yeah, that's kind of where it came from like the school ground, of course, like everybody else, and then to going to the events, to making the channel, and just kind of going for it. That's really, like I was telling you guys, like you just kind of go for it. And there really is no whether you win or lose, like with YouTube. It really is just, if people want to watch, cool. If they don't want to watch, it is what it is. And you just kind of put out what
Exactly.
you want to put out. Like there was a time I put out content I didn't care for, and I did it because I thought it's what people wanted to see. I thought it's what was popular, and it just wasn't something I personally enjoyed. So those are videos I eventually took down because I was like, those aren't me. Like I was
Yeah.
using someone else's cards to do a deck profile of a deck I knew nothing about. I was like, I'm not doing
Yeah.
this. So
See? Yeah, exactly. Well, it
yeah.
doesn't. it doesn't feel genuine, and when it doesn't feel genuine, no one's going to want to engage with it because it's not coming from anywhere that people can connect with, you know, because you can't even connect with it. So I understand that,
Exactly.
especially when
Exactly.
it comes down to, because most people don't know, and this is probably the first time actually speaking on it on the podcast, but I actually started this podcast with a partner of mine, and we started this with the idea of, just like I said, giving Syracuse something to look forward to or have some kind of entity in. And we were grinding all the way up. It was a lot of one-sided work. I would do a lot of more of the work than he would. And that's not slandering him per se, but that's just to say that, you know, what the God honest truth was. So it got to a point where he wanted to back out, and the breaking, as you guys said, was a little bit I would say bloody. It got a little rough there, but we came to a point where he just wanted to walk, and I just had to let him do his thing. So he left, and some people would have let that discourage them or get them down or maybe stop, but I just kind of took the rest of the team, took everyone who was going to be more serious with it, and just said, all right, well, now I'm going to make this work because I got a point to prove. You know, something to prove to myself as well that, you know, I can do this without him. And, you know, this was something that I wanted to do, and I'm going to do it regardless of who's with me or not, even if I got to do it my goddamn self. So
Exactly.
consistency is just key. You always got to keep moving forward. Most Attack on Titan fans actually just, you know, got hyped because of the final episode. But as Aaron says, man, you just got to keep moving forward and keep fighting. You know, you never know what's going to be around that next corner or the next breakthrough. For instance, people who don't know, the Crush Cards is another local, I would not say local, but another New York group that got a lot of popularity and a lot of clout from being featured on a Team Samurai video. Who, you know, shouts to both of them, and it just took that one little spark for them to have the ability and the, you know, growth that they've seen. So that's all it takes is consistency. You just gotta stay at it, and as you were saying, you just do it for the love of it. It's not just because you want to make money or because you want to have the greatest things, or, you know, have a build a big channel. You just do it because I genuinely feel like talking about cards twice a week is fun, and I love doing it. Brad loves his streams. We love making content for people and getting people excited about, you know, the next pack that's available, or like the next tournament that we're able to do. We do a lot and neg a lot just to make sure that we, you know, have things that are fun and good for the community, and not only our local community but communities, you know, far and wide. I'm sending out giveaways to Italy and Virginia and in the states, out of states, just to make sure that people have, you know, what they need. Like, some people may not have playmats. Some people may not have access to these new cards when they come out. So to be able to have someone who's going to, you know, go into the community and give these people what they need, or what should be, you know, there. I just feel as though it's worth it. So that's the reason why we do it over here. So I know I agree with your reasoning of just, you know, you just got to do it. You just got to actually genuinely love the game as you do, and that's how it does. So speaking more about the game though, after giving, you know, people a little bit of that insight, you know, that little, you know, behind the scenes footage, what would you say your current favorite deck is? And then, because you've been playing so long, maybe you've got a wider perspective, but like, what would you say your favorite format to play of all time? If you can go back and play one format for another day, for like another couple hours, what would it be, and then why? Why do you feel as though like you're gravitated towards it?
Yeah, personally, I would say, and it's usually the answer never changes. It's kind of hard though, because I've played. I would say my two favorite formats for sure: Dino Rabbit format, which is a format a lot of players don't actually enjoy because it was really like a triangle format. You had Dino Rabbit, Inzectors, and Windups. I think the reason I liked it so much, I was a Dino Rabbit player the entire time. You knew what to expect. You knew you were either playing the Dino Mirror, you knew you were playing against Windup, or you knew you were playing against Inzector. Like, yeah, there were some other like off the wall decks at the time, but you kind of just knew like, okay, you know, am I gonna get hand looped? Am I, you know, are they gonna, you know, am I gonna see Magician Shark? Do I have the Max Seed? Do I have the Veiler to stop stuff that's going on? Okay, do I, you know, are Inzectors gonna pop off? Like, are they gonna try to pop my board? Are they gonna try to, you know, are they gonna try to Dragonfly combos? Like, you could Veiler, and, you know, Maxi was ass against Inzectors,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, every once in a while you might get a draw or something like that. Like, or Dino Rabbit, you know, you knew like, all right, are they, you know, when they start with Tour Guide, that could mean so many different things. Like Tour Guide into Sangan or Tour Guide into Tour Guide could mean Dino Rabbit. It could mean Wind Up. It could mean even Insectors. I think there was it had played tour guide. Like it could mean so many different avenues. But like you pretty much knew the card pool for the format. Like YCS Long Beach, you knew. I think the only new deck that had come out, I think, for that event was probably trying to think if it was TG Stun. I think it was or something like that. Like the skill drain deck with the the deck that Hansei actually won nationals with. Like shout out to Hansei because he 11 years later my boy did it again and it was crazy winning the before the post COVID nationals, even though it wasn't called nationals. He won again with Sword Soul, which is crazy. Like yeah, I would say like that would be the format I would want to go back and play. And then a very close second, I don't really know what the format was, but it was when I was able to play Minerva Sworn because fortunately I own at the time, and I still do own it. I owned a prize card Minerva, and I was able to play the Minerva deck. And I was playing a version of it that was called the Totally Minerva deck, where you were including in like cards like Tin Goldfish and Chocolate Magician Girl, and I'm trying to remember what the other card was. It was like another level 4 that you could summon. It was another water monster basically, and basically you were making Bahamut and Toad on top of like Double Omega, Minerva, Dweller, like all these like crazy XYZs, and that deck to me was just so much fun to play.
Peak Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, there was a lot of interaction back then. I mean, Maxi obviously has been gone for years. Like after that, like, but I just remember like it was just insane. It was so insane like playing a deck like that. Plus, I mean, honestly, I think because I had Minerva, I was more inclined to play because that's a prize card, very hard to get at the time, and I was just fortunate enough to have one, and it was just awesome. I played the crap out of that deck, and I'm glad it got reprinted just so I don't have to actually bust out my prize card if I ever want to play old formats, but I still got it. But yeah, if I could go back and play format, it'd probably be Dino Rabbit 2011, 2012 Dino Rabbit for sure. And yeah, like favorite deck of all time or like favorite deck
Well,
currently.
yeah, currently, like if you were to go to a regional
Oof.
right now, what do you find yourself picking up and being like, all right, good old reliable?
Honestly,
It's
like
gonna fit this kid.
it's a shitty answer, but probably just
There's no
because
shitty answers.
it's what I currently own. Like I actually only have 2 full decks that I can actually play, and they are Runic Stun and Dark World. So both of those
Oh shit.
don't sound too inviting to really anyone that plays against them. But honestly, like looking at the format, Runic Stun would probably be what I would pick because I think the floodgates are better into the format, obviously for obvious reasons, and Dark World, if the format was right for Dark World, I would pick Dark World 10 out of 10 times because I have loved Dark World since it first came out. And even though the deck is degenerate with the hand loop, it's still just a crazy combo deck and I've never been big on combo decks, but outside of Danger Thunder, and it feels almost like Danger Thunder because you're just summoning so many monsters and just making, just
Yeah, you're
taking
going off.
card. Yeah, Silva's crazy. Like I can't even play it in Master Duel, like which is crazy to me. Like they banned Silva before like we even got the new Dark World card. So the Dark World deck in Master Duel is nothing but a spam deck, and it's just not what
Yeah,
you
but
can do
Master
with
Duel's
Dark
not
World.
real, so.
It's true. It's true. I do play Master Duel a lot. I do play Master Duel a lot. It's kind of like a break from like the regular TCG. And like Johnny and I, we play it. I mean, we can still play Runic Stun
It's not real.
in that game. So we just do it. We just do it. I mean, people are going to Worlds for it, but at a very unhealthy cost. So I hope they change
The,
that
the
because
only
it's just
reason I would play Master Duel, I feel, is if they is just because they got a Rise Heart stuff, and I'm just
yeah,
about to get
yeah.
a Rise Heart.
Yeah, no, and
I'm
Rise
missing
Heart
so much.
is, I swear, I mean, I do my dailies every day, and I would say I play on average maybe 4 or 5 games a day just to do my dailies, depending on what ends up happening. And I swear, I probably see a Rise Heart at least 2 or 3 out of those 5 games. Like you're gonna see
That's
a
what I like
special
to hear.
summon of a Fenrir or a Unicorn, and you already know what's gonna happen. So you just kind of brace yourself for impact. But yeah, I don't hate Master Duel. I think Master Duel is fine. It's separate from the TCG, and then, it is what it is. Needs a lot of fixes to be what it should be, but you know,
I've had a discussion where I like Master Duel for the grand purpose of introducing people to the concept of Yu-Gi-Oh and
yes,
a simplified way of playing it.
true,
I
true.
don't like Master Duel because although that is the goal, is to get people to switch over to cardboard. When they switch over to cardboard, they are immediately greeted with something that is completely different than what they were used to
Exactly.
playing. So it's like
Exactly.
that makes no fucking sense to me.
Yeah.
A, B. These people, like for example, and I hate to use him as an example. My brother is just like the highest example of this because he just doesn't know any better. So there was a reason that was going on at Catskills, New York, not too long ago. I want to say it sometime earlier this year, and my man just started playing Master Duel like a couple months before that event. So he hits me up and says, "Hey, is there any place where we can go play Yu-Gi-Oh? I just bought cards. They all came in, and I want to play my deck
Oh boy.
at a place." So I said, "Yeah, you can go to locals. I won't be there tomorrow because I'm gonna go to a regional because I'm playing more competitively. But you should just go to a locals and just vibe." And he goes, "No, I'm gonna go to the regional, but
Oh
you are. If you're
no.
gonna play competitive, I'm gonna play competitive. This deck does really well when I practice with it."
Uh-oh.
I said, "Okay, where you can go. This is where we're gonna be." So I gave him the address. I told him to pull up, and the man pulls up. But the man pulls up at 10 o'clock. Has everything. I don't like talk to him for that long because the rounds are about to get started.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this guy. We get done pretty early, so we gather up. He runs into his buddy. His buddy's telling me, "Yeah, I just got done playing because my opponent had an illegal deck." He
Oh
said the dumbass still
no.
had Verte Anaconda in his deck when
Oh
Verte
geez.
just got banned. And I
Yeah.
said, "Really? Damn, he must not have known." And he goes, "Yeah, but it was funny because he had a bunch of other banned cards too.
Oh
I feel like he
jeez.
was a Master Duel player, and this is his first time playing in the TCG." So I said,
Yeah.
"Wait, this sounds familiar. Point him out to me." And I
No.
guarantee, I shit you not, dog, he points right at my brother and
Oh
says, "Yeah,
damn.
that's the guy right there. He brought out Verte and still."
Damn. He probably tried to Maxime too.
Yo, he did have a
Oh
Maxi.
my god. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, no, I do
Yeah, so like
agree.
those are the
I do
that's
agree
why I
on
don't
that.
like Master Duel, dog.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do agree. My one thing I'll say about Master Duel, if they could just make it for current TCG2, it could do wonders. It could open so many doors
You see,
for
but
so
they
many
got to
things.
decide on
Yep.
what one. Is it going to be TCG or are they going to commit to OCG?
I think
You know what
they've
I'm
committed
saying?
I think they've committed unfortunately to OCG. It really seems like they follow everything there and it's just like I mean it is what it is. Like when they drop ban lists so frequently, you just kind of never know what to expect, but like luckily, I mean, it's just kind of like once you kind of pick a couple decks, like I'm not going to sit here and build 20 different decks. Like I'll pick a couple decks just to get my gems, just to grind through
Yeah.
and honestly like
That's
it's
another rigged
fine.
system.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. Like I don't think you have to spend a penny in the game to do well. Literally, like there are so many ways to get free gems. Like once you know how to do your dailies, like I've been sitting on 10K gems like month after month, and I just have so many gems. I have to just spend them on cards because my freaking
Yeah.
gift box is just full of crap. So I'm like, all right, well I guess we'll craft this. All right, whatever. Get rid of it. Don't care. Like I have the stuff I want, and yeah, I mean it's again, I think it's fine to get some players into the game, but I think it needs to be known that if you're getting into that, you're not going to be playing like that when you get to the actual cardboard
Yeah.
TCG.
It should be announced that, hey, this isn't the TCG nor the OCG, but it's its own thing. If you intend on playing in-person IRL like events, please be sure to go purchase and check out the TCG ban list and make sure that your cards are all legal and yada yada. I think there just should be some parameters of letting people know that this ain't the real deal either way, because you can't go to OCG playing with the ban list that Master Duel has, and you can't go to TCG with it either. So it's weird.
It is very weird, but yeah.
But I mean, would you consider yourself a competitive player? Like, I mean, do you think that you're just a kind of casual, low key? Like, I try and stay informed, but like, I may not be competitive. Because some people who grind Master Duel try to do it to like gain new knowledge, and some people just do it just to enjoy the game. So, like, do you kind of see yourself more on the competitive edge?
Yeah, I would say 100% competitive. I've always really played the game competitive. Now, I've played some pretty casual decks, but I've also been known to play meta. And I've even dabbled, especially talking about Runic Stun, like I've dabbled in anti-meta. I've played decks like Guru Control. I've played, anti-meta decks because I wanted to know the full aspect. I've played combo decks before. I've played mid-range decks before. Like Mech Knight, for example, is a deck that Johnny and I have played forever, and it's a mid-range deck. It's definitely not top tier. It's I wouldn't put it in the trash can. I wouldn't say it's that bad. It was just a deck that, we really liked and we saw potential in, and we played it a lot. And it's just a mid-range deck that, it can win a lot, it can lose a lot. A lot of players don't know what the cards do. They really don't read them, and you can get a lot of wins off that, which is cool. But I definitely use Master Duel as a tool to use it because I will play Runic, or I will play, unfortunately, Kashtira just with Rise Heart just came a little too late. That's a problem with a lot of the sets they release them. They release them and the best cards are out, but you can't actually convert that over to the TCG, kind of like what we were talking about. You actually can't convert that over, so you don't get that full interaction. So you have to use like other platforms like EDO Pro or Dueling Book. And I mean, if you got the patience for Dueling Book, by all means. I do not. So
Yeah. Some people
EDO
say what
Pro is
that's
my
more.
yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy EDO Pro a little bit more than I enjoy the other ones as well. But I do agree with most people saying that the competitive practice is on DB. But
It is.
I do understand that that also comes with its own like pros and cons. Like, of course, you're getting more competitive practice, but it comes at a cost of you have to be at the table. It's like you have to be more focused. Master Duel is something. That's why I kind of say, well, people who play Master Duel not are casuals, but like they have like a more of a casual kind of mind state of like just one game. We're here to have fun, just chilling. I want to play the cards I like. Whereas
Yep.
the competitive players are all on DB because it takes more time. You have to play it on like a laptop or like a desktop. You're not playing that on your phone. You have
Yeah.
to. There are rules. Judges get called. There's like actual rankings and shit like that matter. Like that people
Yeah.
like actually grind for. So it's more competitive. But as you said, it's more of a time commitment. There are more sweaty people, more tryhards, more the toxicity is there. Like of course, with every pro is going to be a con. So just take it at your own, like I guess, will.
Exactly. I like I said, I use it as a tool. I use it as something as a little break from, and I think it's because I'm hopeful. That's one thing with me. I'm pretty optimistic with most things that maybe one day it'll convert into a real simulator for us. So I hold that idea in the back of my head, and I'm just like, you know what? Maybe it'll happen one day. Maybe it won't. For the meantime, I can still play a decent amount of the actual cards I'm playing in the TCG. And to me, I look at it like, okay, yeah, you can get up in rankings. To tell you the truth, it don't get you shit at the end of the day. It don't matter if you're at,
Yeah.
what is it, bronze 5, or I think it's now they have the new rank Master 1, whatever the hell it is. All you're getting is extra gems, and I gotta be honest, I got too many gems than I know what to do with, so it really doesn't mean anything to me. I think
Yeah. Shit.
the only cool thing is if you get into the Master rank when the new season starts, you're in platinum or you're in diamond instead of platinum. That's the only
Yeah.
difference. So you can grind a little quicker, like, and you might play more competitive decks, but honestly, like, what am I really playing for? Like, I play Runic Stun on there. I got one Amano Awado. I've got
Yeah.
semi-limited. Shout out to you guys. I
Hey.
got semi-limited
Hey.
Runic spells
Where's
left
my
and
air horn?
yeah, left and right. Like, I mean, the Runic spells are at like 2 each. Like, it's like crazy. Like all the good ones, and then I think what's cool about Master Duel right now, if you're playing Runic, and if you're actually playing Runic in the TCG, is Time Tearing Morganite came to Master Duel. So it's the same thing. When you play that card, you're doing pot of greed every turn, and it is just absolutely
I
insane.
love how you're
So
just advocating for war crimes on this Christian channel.
yeah.
Like you're just saying, hey guys, there's no better time to play stun where you can
yeah.
draw 2 of your floodgates and normal 2 of your
Yep.
floodgates at the
Yep.
same
Yep.
time.
Yeah.
There's not a better time. Come join us.
Yeah, and to be fair, like on Master Duel though, all the floods are at 1, or I think Tikaboo's at 2. So it's like, yeah, you got one drain, one rivalry. I think one goes
That's
in.
honestly
Like,
how
yeah,
it should be.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's like
and
the one
and
thing.
and
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, it's still playable. So in my head, it's like, if they do that to the TCG, you're gonna see some wild people out there, probably like me and Johnny, trying to find ways to still play it. As long as we still have a Runic fountain, and we still have, as long as Tip doesn't get banned, I think we're still in it.
Yeah, I think that I was saying the same thing. I think tips should have been limited to 1, and fountain
Yeah.
could have stayed at 3. People are only playing 2 fountain anyway, so I mean at least in the TCG. So tip would have got hit to 1. All it is they're not searching the out that they need every single turn because
Exactly.
they don't have the access to three. It's just all right. I'll search it. It's gonna go back into the bottom of the deck, and then I gotta dig that shit back out later
Yep.
on. Like, so I
Exactly.
think that's way better personally. But I mean, hey,
Yeah.
Konami does what they fucking want to do.
Yep.
So like, I guess Fountain 2 is the low key sauce that they needed to calm the deck down or not get a
Exactly.
representation. So, but
Exactly.
I only asked that because I really kind of take everyone's experience into considerations when I ask them things in these discussions, just to kind of get a little bit more on like the player and the person that I'm talking to that we're interviewing. But it kind of seemed like when I asked you earlier, you said your favorite format was the Dino format because it was a trio, a triangle format. It was, you said, Dino Rabbits, there was Windups, and there was Inzector.
Yep.
So are you more? Does that mean you favor more defined formats versus undefined formats? Because is that something that you more prefer? Because for those who are listening, defined formats are more when there is something about like a big three, where the top three decks are going to be most likely what you're playing against competitively, and people know how to side against them. They know the lines of play, where to interact with them, yada yada. And then there are more undefined formats, kind of like what we're in right now, where there's a lot of different decks that are in the format, a lot of different viable strategies that are still being able to climb into some sort of representation or have success with certain pilots. And it's harder to side for 7, 8, 9, 10 different decks that might be played versus the three that might be guaranteed you're going to be playing against on your way up to through those Swiss rounds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would say for sure myself personally, it would be I'm more of a favor of a defined format, but I'm not opposed to an open format. Where like you were saying, we were talking about this before we started recording. My whole policy in this game has always been adapt to the format. No matter what the format is, figure it out to the best of your ability and adapt. Don't complain. Don't bitch about it. I've said it before in videos and I'll say it again right now. If you love this game, you will play it in the good formats and the bad formats.
Yep.
I've been there from the playground Yu-Gi-Oh to the Teledad formats to the only format I missed, and I always have to mention that because I did miss it. There was a period of time I wasn't playing. I did miss Necros format, and I've been told by a lot of my friends in this game it was one of the best formats. I've heard it from both ends because it was a very skillful format. The mirror match was very skillful, and it was, you knew what the format was. You knew Necros was around. You knew there was the Jin lock. You knew there was a lot of things. I think a lot of people didn't expect BA to come out and just kind of give Necros a trouncing. Like, it was pretty nuts. Like, I don't think anyone really saw that coming until it happened. But I've played like in all these formats. I've played in the Danger FTK's formats. I played in the Pendulum
Even tier
FTK
format
formats. Yeah, I mean, playing in that was
recently.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, here I am, we were trying to play Runic even back then, like when it first came out. And you're trying to deck out this deck that literally has shufflers that just laugh at you. And I mean, theoretically, they damn near deck us out because, they're making us mill so many cards over and over and over again. And, it was a shitty format is what people were saying. But in my head, I'm like, well, I mean, it could be worse. Like, I always think a format could be worse. It could be better. Like, just knowing like what's out there, it's like you just kind of got to play it. Like, even they mill the whole deck. Like, everyone saw how crazy the mirrors can be for tier. Like, I never played tier like myself. I never
Chain
piloted it.
18.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, it's crazy like how high the chain links got, like, with a lot of the stuff. But it's like, you just kind of roll with the punches is what I've always said with the format. And you're gonna have better seasons than others. You're gonna have seasons where you do really well, seasons where you don't do so hot, seasons where you just dog shit. Like, it happens. Like, you're gonna have those seasons. And I don't think it's enough to quit the game. Like, when I think about the game, I never, outside of the one time I didn't play, I never considered quitting. I never considered saying, I'm not gonna play this no more. Like, yeah, I'm gonna keep playing it. I'm gonna find a way. I have the resources to learn what the format is, the resource to the
Yeah.
cards if I need them. And it may take me a little longer than others to learn a deck since I play pretty simplified decks, but like when I picked up Danger Thunder, which I hadn't played a combo deck in a long time. This was like for the first 3v3. Shout out my boy Ed Exception, like taught me how to play the deck better, like how to do the combo lines better, and it made a world of difference, like learning that deck. I loved Thunder Dragon Colossus. I loved that Thunder deck. I loved everything that it could do. Playing Sekka's Light with no other spells was insane. Like your end board was crazy. And, then going from a combo deck like that, then going to like a control deck in like Guru Control, or going to a stun deck like Runic Stun, or back to a combo deck with Dark World. Like there were so many different avenues, mid range with like Mech Knights or like a lot of these other decks. Like I've had a variety of decks I've played. I've played in every format minus one basically, and I mean, shit. I played back in the day when you could play Cyberstein, like I feel like when it
Yeah,
was,
right.
yeah.
Crazy.
Like I mean, I'm being I've God, I'm trying to think what year that was. I was like 15 or 16, and like I own one Cyberstein, which is a rare that I pulled from a booster pack, and I couldn't believe this card that I saw in the Game Boy Advance game was real, and it was a
Yeah.
rare, and I didn't know it was a prize card worth like a house. I never knew that, and summon Cyberstein, pay 5,000, Cyber Twin Dragon, limiter removal, boom, like little things like that were really cool, like back then, and then. Stein was a card that, we've seen it like pop up every once in a while. Like it's kind of crazy. Like old cards always come back. So it's really cool. Like you kind of go down memory lane if you've been playing as long as I have, like to really just see
Yeah.
like some cards come back. And I didn't hate Dragon Ruler format either. I played Dragon Rulers and I loved it. I knew what the format was. It was Dragon Rulers, spell books, maybe some Evil Sworn, and is what it is. So
Yeah, and I agree with you too. As far as like, you kind of just gotta adapt and stop complaining, because a lot of people do feel like they're complaining. There are tons of cards that are quote unquote ban worthy. I remember when Boral Sword was a thing, and everyone
oh
was like
yeah.
ban Boral Sword because all the games are ended by Boral Sword OTK. But that never became a thing. Then I remember, oh yeah, ban Calamities because that can get brought out with Crimson Dragon, and it's gonna
Oh yeah.
be degenerate. And then now they're not even doing that shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Exactly.
everyone wants to complain
Exactly.
about and hype these problems up, these mountains and the molehills. Oh, sorry, these molehills and the mountains, and it's just crazy to me because I am of also where you stand. Where my core belief in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh is you should be able to build your deck to be able to beat anything, period. Like that's the whole point of Yu-Gi-Oh's. My deck is the best, period. It doesn't matter what your strategy is. I'm going to beat you because my deck is superior. You know what I'm saying? Like you look at all the duelists and all of these animes, they always stay on a certain archetype or something like that, and they always say that their cards are the best. It's because they thoroughly believe it. That's what they are. Like they know their strategy. Whether it's a shitty strategy or not, they know it. And you need to, as a duelist, be able to do the same thing. My deck is good to play whatever. I can take Sprite, which I play with right now on a competitive level, anywhere and feel comfortable playing it, whether it's against a tier deck, whether it's against an Unchained deck, whether it's against a Rescue Ace deck, whether it's against anything else that's in the format, any sort of Rogue, Labyrinth, any other that wild shit, Red Resonators, dog. I know those decks and my deck enough to be able to navigate those waters. So I'm a big believer in whether it's an undefined format or not, you need to make sure that you know how to beat these decks. So when people want to use that as an excuse, oh, I couldn't side correctly because I can't side for 15 decks. Well, then you shouldn't have a deck that has 15 different problems that are in the format. You know what I'm saying? As you say,
Absolutely.
Dark World, very very strong deck, but not when it gets drolled. Very
Yeah.
very strong deck, but not when it gets shifted. Very
Yep.
very strong deck, but not when you get the mid combo nib. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like there's a lot of things that
100%.
can shut things down. So like, you just gotta find a way. And so I do agree that you can complain, but it's only good into a certain standpoint or to a certain extent. Because after that, it's just all right. There's a skill gap, I guess. You can just fall behind and complain, or you can get better and, as you say, lab up. Find out what the
Basically.
fuck the format's about. What are the cards? What are these end boards looking like? What do they put up? Do they put up four negates? Do they put up two negates and a disruption? Is it all hand disruption? Is it field disruption? Is it front row? Is it back row? Do I need side cards to get rid of back row because my main engine can spot remove monsters? Yada yada. Like there's so many things that you can do as far as labbing, and you don't need to wait for someone to net deck or figure it out. You can go figure it out for yourself if you want to complain that much.
Exactly, exactly. I think you said it well, and I know I got a little like on a I went on a little bit of a semi tangent, but like I think the reason why I prefer like the defined only because as you mentioned you know what to side for, but what I've learned in the open formats is that what you look for in side decking is you look for universal cards that can answer multiple decks in one, and you really look at the number 15 kind of becomes like your centerfold because you can have 15 slots and you have to think, okay, what do they entail? Like if you're siding 15 cards out of your deck, as you mentioned, then you have too many problems with your deck. If you're siding in
Yeah,
your entire side deck against the meta, you have to the players who are really good at the game always know what's coming in and what's coming out. They know how many cards go in against a certain matchup. They know what cards hit the deck more than others. Like for example, XYZ Encore against Pearly is just insane. Like it's a basically not even up for discussion how good that card is. Then you have the players who will go towards Herald of the Abyss because they're playing a card like Thrust. So you see, there's different avenues you can go. It really comes down to what your main deck is doing. Your side deck is there to support it. That's really what it is. Like,
exactly. To support your main goal, your main deck idea, your gimmick.
exactly. And that's like one thing, like, side decking has always been a struggle for me. I will admit, I think side decking is one of the hardest things, and mastering it is, it I think I think like you never truly master side decking because even some of the best players to ever pick up the game have even mentioned in their profiles, my side deck was not the best. I didn't like that I sided this. I never sided this card in. This card never did anything. This card could have been
I
anything else.
expected to
Like,
see this, didn't see that
yeah,
at
never
all.
saw it. And there's so many different different avenues that different situations that can occur that you may side in a card that's the best card against the deck, and as you mentioned, you never see it. So you don't have the data on. For me personally, it wasn't that good, but I know it's good, so I sided it, but I just never saw it. And I mean, there's going to be those factors too, and I think that that's just the thing is whether it's a defined format, whether it's an open format, just go in with an open mind to say, and to take advice from players who are better than you, who give you side decking suggestions or main decking
Hmm.
suggestions, and like
Who understand? Yeah, for sure.
yeah, don't immediately disregard it because you don't like what they're telling you. They're telling you you're playing a bad card. They're telling you you're playing a bad card because 9 times out of 10 you probably are playing a bad card. Like there's just
And
no
don't take
way.
it to heart either. They're not saying
Yeah,
it because they're hating you for playing this card, but they're trying to say, hey,
they're
maybe you
trying to
shouldn't play
help you.
because that's the difference. Exactly. If someone comes and tells you, I think even if you're playing against someone on like a regional level, or like a YCS level or something like that, and you play against someone and you lose, and they say, hey, maybe you should take this card, switch it for something else. Yeah, you might feel salty because you lost. You might feel some kind of way because they beat you, but that doesn't make what they're saying any less valuable information. It doesn't matter how it's presented to you. It's just the information that is presented. So hey, maybe you should look at those cards. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe they know a little bit better. Maybe that's how they knew how to beat you. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to take that shit not to heart, but to the mind. You know what I'm saying? To dissect. All right, well, what are they trying to get at with this? Where does it? Maybe this does help a weakness of mine, or you know what I'm saying? But the second you take it to heart and brush off that advice or that um, constructive criticism, that's when you start not developing as a player. That's when you start being, I would say, a sore loser and someone who doesn't want to grow as a duelist. I've taken plenty of L's, and I don't know most people who know who Eric Christensen is. He's one of
Oh
the
yes.
highest ranked Yu-Gi-Oh players in the United States, but he goes to our locals all the time and I play against him multiple times. And it's funny because I keep a mental, and he also keeps a mental note of every time we play and the record we played. He was 3-1 against me last format, so I only beat him once and he beat me 3 times at locals all of last format. So there's times where he'll let me know as soon as we get done and he beats me. He's like, oh damn, you got that ass deck. Or we'll sit down and I'll say, all right, or he'll say, yeah, I lost this game to you, but let's go back and play it so that way I can see what it would have been if we did it this way. And
Yep.
we play it all out, and I do the same things, and then maybe he'd win that game if he would have thought it out sooner or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But because he sat there and talked it out with me, we're both becoming better players because of it, and you get to learn things from better players like that who are giving you their insight, as you said, and letting you see things from a more competitive standpoint than more of a I want to play the cards I want to play standpoint.
No, exactly. I think that's a fantastic example that you gave. Like being able to learn from your losses, number one, and number two, being able to take constructive criticism from someone who's clearly better than you. Like being able to acknowledge that is what can help any player grow. And that's something I learned. Of course, getting older, you do mature with a lot of things. But I think, having, being basically being what I consider a veteran in the game, a lot of players, and it's a sign of respect for a lot of like content creators like myself, Johnny, Robbie. Like we are considered veterans in this game's, lifespan because we've been around for everything. And, it really is a sign of respect that, you're referred to as a veteran, but you're also just that you learn to take criticism, whether it's good advice or bad advice. Like I would always take advice from someone who I think, played really well or is better than me. And I know there's tons of players that I'm going to play or that I've played that are way better than me and have given me advice, and it's made a world of difference. And it's just something I think Yu-Gi-Oh should be a game where you're constantly learning and you're not being
Mm,
stagnant, but you're progressing. Like that's really the main thing is you don't want to be stuck, you know, just not improving because of your
yeah,
own like stubborn, your own stubbornness, to be honest. Like
yeah.
if
Because the
someone
ego,
told
it's all ego.
exactly, and that's one thing is like you got to leave your ego at the door because when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, I mean, it's your day or it's not, and that's just really what it is. A lot of these players who win YCSs, it's their day. A lot of players, who consistently top, they know the formula, they know what to do, they've done it enough to know it. And you're gonna have those days. Like if we look at the last YCS, the two guys in the finals, yeah, like everyone thought Pac and Chris was gonna be the finals. It sounded like an insane possibility that Chris LeBlanc and Pac are going to play in the finals of YCS Richmond. Two different decks, two phenoms, one who's been playing since they were a little kid. Now they're a very big kid with
Yep.
five rings, and you have Pac, who, in my personal opinion, is one of the best to come along. I honestly don't
Yeah.
remember the last
Definitely
time
rookie of the year. Yeah.
without a doubt, and honestly one of the, I would say, not only one of the nicest people I personally know, but one of the smartest people I know, because he puts in an amount of commitment that I can't even fathom to this game. Like he, in his success, is a reflection of that. And I think that when you have someone like that, that's someone, if you're coming into this game, you may not be able to, reach his status or his accolades that he's, racked up, but I would always look to someone like that with nothing but admiration, because they put in the time, they put in the effort, and look at what they've turned it into. And I think what blew people away was everyone thought Chris and Pac could potentially be the finals of this YCS. That's absolutely insane. And then it ended up not happening. They both ended up losing in top four. And then we had two new players who, unless they were from your local area, and it's no knock to them, they both did amazing. If they're not from your local area, you don't know them personally, this may be your first time finding out who these two
Hearing
players
those
are.
names.
and
Yeah.
and they're both playing Unchained. And regardless, whoever wins that finals, they're going to be a YCS champion for the first time, and you're going to slowly learn their name because of that. And I think that's just the thing, is that it was their day to make it to the finals. It was their day to play and beat two of the best players currently in the game. And it's just crazy when you think about it. Like it's definitely
I heard.
some mhm.
No, no. As you said, finish.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just saying it was definitely their day.
Yeah, I've heard one. Sorry, I heard MS. No, what is it? No, I heard MBT one time on one of his shorts, and he was talking about elements and how it was named a casino deck, and how is this casino deck doing good? How is this luck based deck, topping all these events? And he was saying you have to make yourself lucky, and in that point, he meant like you have to give yourself the highest amount of chances to get lucky. So like if I have to mill 5 cards, the best mills are gonna be when I've thinned out all the other cards from my deck and I have nothing but names left. Like that's how you get yourself lucky, when you make sure your ratios are 4 to 1. I'm sorry, as far as like names to hand traps and starters and shit like that. Like that's how you make yourself lucky. So I do agree that there's a certain point of like it's your day, but there if you research enough and you do enough of the back work to knowing not only what your deck does and how it interacts into the format, but knowing what other decks do and how they interact, and then how you're able to disable them or stop them and or just turn them on, break boards or whatever, then you'll be able to progress, I think, as a player instead of just leaving it up to yeah it is their day, but know that there's a lot that went into that day for most players. Like
Absolutely.
I don't want anyone to hear this to just think that, oh yeah, I can just, as I am right now, go to a YCS and it'll be my day. No, 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 no. You still got to put in the work that they put in to understand and beat players like Chris LeBlanc and Pac in the semifinals of the fucking YCS. So, and
Absolutely.
I think, um, speaking of, I think we're going to the last topic for tonight because I don't want to keep you here for too long. But a lot of people at our local scene were talking about or they're talking about quote unquote good cards. And for those who don't know, they were talking about if you want to be a good card, quote unquote, in this meta, then you have to do a mandatory of 3 different things. And now they took cards like Baron de Flor. They took cards like Diabell Star, Snake Eyes, the Black Witch, whatever that bitch is. Arias Heart, rest in peace, the real one. Kalina Heart, they mentioned things like Bystial Dispatar or Dispatter. Borland Dragon. All of these monsters do multiple things. They look at Baron de Flor. It negates an Omni Negate once per turn. Once while it's face up on the field. Once per turn, it can destroy a card on the field. And then it's got recursion where it could tag itself out for another card in your graveyard, i.e., something that was made for its synchro summon or something else in your graveyard. So like that's 3 different things. The new Diabell Star special summons itself by pitching any card in his hand. If it gets sent to the graveyard by your or on your opponent's turn by any means, you can special summon itself back. When it's special summoned, it gets to set a card directly from the deck to your field. That shit's broken. Rice Heart was a macro Cosmo on wheels that attached everything every time something got banished. It detached 3 to banish on your quick effect face down, which it was insane. Things like Borland can't be targeted by monster effects, can't be targeted by either player, can't respond to its activation. It's a once per turn blanket negate so once per turn target negate, but it's a permanent negate and it's insane. Like it just does a lot of things. Can't be destroyed by battle, yada yada, all the things that you want a boss monster. So what do you think are the qualifications that you would say are good for a card to be considered meta? Like what do you think those 3 things should be?
Like honestly, that's always been like a rough question because like I think to myself like there's like you mentioned the cards you mentioned, Barone and of course Diabell Star, Rise Heart, of course, rest in peace, and then like all the cards that have come out like I feel
Yes, rest in peace, my heart. Make my
yeah.
starlights worth it.
To me, it has to do something like it has to do something that other cards do not, but then it can also mimic cards of the past. A card I always look to as a card that when it came out I could not believe it was real was Triple Tactic Talents.
Triple tack.
And
Yep.
and the reason for that is, again, being a veteran player, having played for years, I played Confiscation, I played Forceful Sentry, I played Change of Heart,
That's true.
Brain Control, Snatch Steal, all those cards. And, before they got those horrible erratas, but we will not touch that with a 50
We'll
foot
speak of them
pole.
in their glory.
Yeah, the glory days when they were real Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I looked at that card and I said, "This is no way in hell. This is a real card. Someone's pulling my leg. How can a card like this exist that is mimicking 3 ban
Mm.
cards? How is this? This is at the time the most insane spell card I've ever read in my life. You mean to tell me if my opponent hand traps me, I basically can look at their hand, I can take their monster, or I can draw 2? Like what? Like I would say like as you mentioned, Baron de Flor. Baron de Flor is honestly like when you think of Synchro 10s now, that's the card you think of.
Yeah.
It's such a
All
you
around
know,
synchros. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a card that is very, is very straightforward how to make it. It's a level 10. So, simple math, add up to 10, have a tuner, add up to 10. Sword Soul, to me, did it best when the card came out. It was
Mm.
so easy to get to a Barone after a Shisha or whatever it was. And Baron de Fleur, like you mentioned, it having its multiple effects, two of them are really like I would say what's really used. I would say all the times I played against Baron de Fleur, it was rare that it got tagged out, but its negate and its pop made it insane. And I think another thing that made it crazy is it was kind of big. 3K.
Beefy.
I think, yeah, 3K attack. I can't remember its defense off the top of my head, but and you would only put it in defense if you feared Lightning Storm. But in all honesty, like you could just negate the Lightning Storm if that was really the situation. But it was a card that was easy to make. It was a negate, which was insane because anything that negates, for the most part, is good.
Omni negates,
Yeah, and the fact
by
that it
the
was
way.
on legs, is
Mm.
crazy. That it's also a monster, so it automatically puts pressure. It's not a one for one
Yeah.
trade where, like I'm negating something, for example, with Solemn Judgment, and then it goes to my graveyard. I used a card, you used a card, even trade, fair trade. Like, it's more of I negated your card, but my big 3,000 attack point monster is still here. You got to answer
Yeah.
it in battle or by another effect. And if you don't, the negate comes back and I'm going to pop a card of
Yeah.
yours. So to
E-
me, Barone was just one of another insane card. I would say a card to be really just like meta, just splash into the meta has to do something that other cards don't. Number one. Number two, it doesn't always have to be an Omni negate. Recurability is big too, with like Diabell Star is
Yep.
big.
Recur.
It's just being able to recur, or as I mentioned, talents, just because I think talents isn't a class of its own, though, just because it really did just go over and beyond to just make
Yeah.
an insane spell card.
It,
Like,
it is. It is the exact definition of a game changer.
yeah, and even like I would say at the time, like everyone remembers, I don't know how I forgot the name of the set, but the set that Triple Tack and Droplets came out in,
It
you know,
was Rise of the Duelist.
Rise of the Duelist. Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, Rise was
I speak highly of that
absolutely.
set.
I mean, it gave Dogmatica cards. If you were a huge Alistair fan like I was, it gave Nadir Servant. It gave, I remember, shout out to Pete, because I remember when I told him, hey, Pete, this is the cards I need. And you already know it's going to be a lot. And it was like 3 talents, 3 droplets, 3 Ecclesia, 2 to 3 Fleur de Lis, 2 to 3 Maximus, 3 to Near Servant. Like there were just, it was just mind boggling how many cards were good in that set. And
Mm.
talents was just, my God. The first time I
Yeah.
played it, we were, I want to say we were in lockdown, if I recall. And I was playing remote locals. And I just remember doing full Alistair combo with the Dogmatica stuff, setting up Winda, and Talancing on top of it. Like, come on, man. Like, that's just not fair. And then the same thing would happen to me. My opponent would do their combo. I'd hand trap them. Then I'd get Talanced on top of it. I'm like, Jesus, this
Hmm.
is like crazy. Like, yeah, it really was a, game defying card, format
Yeah.
defying card.
I would say things like that too. Recurability is definitely something big. It needs to be, as you said, have attack that's formidable, which I would say 3K or higher is formidable. Cards like the Bestial Despater has 3,500,
That
Borland
card's crazy
3,500.
too.
Even main deck monsters, I think the best main deck, or sorry, I think the best um, structure deck boss monster would be UCT. It special summons
Oh,
itself
yeah.
at Book
Oh,
of
not even
Moons.
close.
It
I agree.
sends for it could attack every monster. It sends for 1,000 damage. Like it does so much for what it does. Sorry, it does a lot for the game state and what archetype it entails it to do. But that's like the qualifications. It's big as shit. 3,500. It's a disruptor. Other boss monsters such as like Doom King, Ballardrock, Recursion comes every turn. It negates or banishes. It can be pitched off with any of the other zombie cards that it's played with. It's got synergy there. Synergy is another big, I think, qualification to be a good card. Decks have to be able to have synergy to bring you out. Certain things like Crimson Dragon are super strong, but not everyone's going to be able to make a Synchro 12 using tuner and two non-tuners. You know what I'm saying? And it's just very very specific. But if it flows within your deck, that's another qualification of a good card, such as Baron de Fleur being able to be splashed into not only Sword Soul, but anything else that synchros into 10 or has the ability to put a Bestial and a level 4 tuner out in the field type deal. So
No,
I think those are all good
absolutely.
qualities. Do you have any other qualities that you think that are necessary of a card to be good?
Yeah, I think you
Before we
really
close out?
hit the nail on the head for that one. To me, if it's a card that every deck could universally play, it is for sure. It meets all those qualifications. It's a good card. Talents was
Yeah,
a card
goated.
every. Yeah, Talents is a card every deck could play. Droplets was basically a card every deck could play. Baron de Fleur, in all honesty, okay, not every deck can play it, like for obvious reasons if you're not playing a tuner. But if your deck has the ability to add in a tuner and you can make it, then it's crazy. Rise Heart, was literally a macrocosmos. Like it was crazy. And I mean, for anyone that played Macro Rabbit, like got to take it
Yep.
back there.
Be able to
Like
slap it over one name,
yeah, yeah,
know,
like
attach
it.
anything.
Yeah, it was really straightforward. Like how easy it was to summon. Like I think simplicity is also a key thing. If you're not jumping through a bunch of hoops to get there, then it makes a good card. If it's pretty straightforward, like you said, slap Rise Hard on top of one thing, you're good to go. Burn the floor, two monsters, get to count to 10. You got there. Like,
Yeah.
another one, and I often think back to the way people would win games with Boral Sword. Basically, this was even before Borderland. You basically could just find a way to just get to Boral Sword,
Yeah,
which was pretty
game
straightforward.
closeout.
And
Yeah.
and just close out the game every time. It was very efficient. I think if a card is
Access code is
efficient,
like that too. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Another
absolutely.
card that just closes out games, being able
Yep.
to get as high as 5,300, popping up to 2, even 3 cards on the field to be able to clear a way for him to attack, and then slapping another monster down just to be able to go for game. That's kind of crazy. Or making it with an update jammer in
Oh yeah.
code to make it attack twice. That's crazy.
Exactly. No, I think those are all valid points, and I think that simplicity, being able to close out a game, if it accomplishes your end goal, then it's I think then it's if it can win you the game, I think it's also it can literally be that thing. Like I mean, it's crazy. You see how good Talents is, in the format. You'll see a lot of players play it, and then I always bring up Dark World just because it's the deck I play. Dark World is the deck where it will play just one copy of Talents. Maybe it'll play a copy of Thrust, depending on, if you can, find the room for it. You should never play more than 40 in that deck. That's just for obvious reasons
Yeah,
because
for sure.
you have a goal in mind. But the Talents is there as a card that basically would want to do 2 out of the 3 options, but mainly its goal is to look at the hand to take the last card out of your opponent's hand or possibly the first card out of your opponent's hand, depending on
But it still
the
does to
situation.
do the rest.
Exactly. And it's a card that even that deck is playing. And again, I love Dark World, just personally don't feel it's the format for it, but Talents is a card that just you can just literally do it. And you technically could even play access code in that deck. Like if you notice, we keep mentioning the same cards. They are game defining because they're cards that every run-of-the-mill deck could find a way to play without hurting their engine. I think if you can play a deck that, as you mentioned, supports a card that supports your deck but doesn't take away from what your deck is meant to do, then it is a good card in the game. It is a good card in the format. And I feel like there's just always going to be cards, even Thrust. Like Thrust came out of nowhere again. And Thrust was a card that I mean, what deck theoretically couldn't play it? Like, you may not want to main deck it, you might want to side deck it or whatever, but it's a generic
Yeah, but being able
card.
to get any normal spell trap from your hand or set it to the field. Let's say you get hand trapped and all right, cool. They just hand loop themselves for the end permanent ash that they had. Cool. Thrust set D barrier, and now I know that I'm good on my turn because they're not playing on theirs. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like strong cards, being able to switch the game. I think being able to sway the game in your favor is also important. Being able to put the advantage in your side. Cards like Droplet and even Ultimate Slayer being able to prevent your opponent from responding super poly type effects I think is crazy. I think that's another qualification for good cards. Protection, um, something like Borderland, where like you can't target it or you can't destroy it by card effects. It can't be destroyed by battle, and it's a big ass attack stick. You know what I'm saying? So those are definitely qualifications. I think that also determine, hey, this card is not to be fucked with, and it's something of being a staple in, I would say, so to say, in its area.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah. Super Poly's in the class of its own, though. I will say that Super Poly's been
Yeah,
around
it
for
does so
a
much.
really long time. I think the
Yeah,
just cannot respond is pretty crazy.
yeah,
That's
too
always
crazy,
been,
too crazy.
yeah. I mean, counter traps have existed for a while, but the fact that you can't even counter trap this card is something
Yeah,
else.
not
So.
being able to respond is crazy. That's why Droplet's insane, because you can spell trap monster and your opponent's not chaining shit to it. You're gonna resolve that. You know what I'm saying? It's insane just to be able to close out a chain, which is something that allows the interaction between players. Is, I think, almost OP sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But I don't want to take you guys up for too long. I have had this guy in here for more than an hour, and I appreciate every minute of it. So we are looking forward to the next time we're going to have him on. But before we close out, I just want to mention that for Upstate News, for those who are aware, Millennium Games in Rochester is hosting an OTS Championship Sunday, November 19th at 11 a.m. They usually tend to have about an average of 40 to 60 players, so probably I would say maybe about 50. I want to go ballpark around 50 this time, just because it is a Sunday. But make sure that you are prepared accordingly. 4 invites will be given to nationals of next year for the top 4, along with the winner, first place, receiving the special playmat. And I've seen them. It is the Dark Hole Dragon mat, and it's really, really good. It
It
looks
is
really, really
gorgeous.
clean. I've seen that shit. It's super, super nice. Yeah, yeah, I really do talk highly of it. It's a very, very nice mat. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. I will be there with the rest of the semi-limited team, with Mr. Perfect and Mr. Teaster. We're all coming out. Also, we'll be doing content, so make sure to come up there and come get in a YouTube video or maybe a TikTok, and we'll chit chat it up, or come get your picture or whatever it is. We're gonna make sure that we reach out to you and interact with you guys while we're up there. Be sure to check out our Discord, which is also in that Linktree link, which is down below, to join a part of the community and chit chat with us and get direct contact. Maybe ask questions that we could talk to about guests like Slim when we have them on, and you guys can be interacting with us there as well. Also, shout outs to Unplugged Gaming for sponsoring the podcast. Thank you so much, Joe, for all the things you do and all the other sponsors out there. And also for Brad, who will be streaming on Twitch every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is the East Coast New York time for those who are outside of the United States. He will be deck testing and theorying and all that stuff on Master Duel, EDO, Pro, DB, whatever you guys want him to do. He will be there doing it. So be sure to go out there and tune in for a good show. He's usually streaming for a couple hours, till about 1 o'clock. You can go check the last VOD, which was me and him playing on EDO Pro for OTS packs. And he slaughtered me, and you can go find out how he did it in those videos below. Also, thank you to our guest, SlimYGO, for coming out and having such a great conversation. Honestly, I didn't even realize how much time has gone by, and we were just chit-chatting for so long. It's just such a smooth conversation and a down-to-earth guy, and I enjoyed our conversation. Definitely going to make sure I have you on, as well as Johnny, if he'd like to come on. I'd love to have Asian Persuasion on. I think that he's a great guy, and it's cool to have both of you guys on here for being such chill guys. And is there any other final thoughts on the show, or any shout outs that you want to give out before we close out tonight?
Like, my piece of advice, like, before we hop out of here, is if you love the game, if the game is annoying you right now, there's always ways to play, and there's always people to talk to make the game better. There's just, for you will find a way. Like I said, I played in every format outside of one, and found a way to play. And I think it's, once you just get into it and you can learn from your losses, and you can accept losing. I think that's one thing we maybe didn't touch upon enough, but you can accept losing, but learning from that loss, you will become a better player than if you just happen to sack the win out, to be honest. Like, I've sacked a lot of players and learned nothing in the process. I've been sacked and I haven't learned anything in the process, but I've lost so many games and known exactly what I did wrong, or they told me what I did wrong, and I learned to never make that mistake again. We've all activated a spell in the imperm column and wanted to just literally scoop the game right there. But once you do it once, you won't do it again. I'll tell you that much. So little things like that, like learn from your losses, accept the constructive criticism from players who are better than you. And I think you can go far in the game, whatever your goals are. Like, it could be from just to play locals to playing, YCSs, regionals, all the different levels. But as long as you're playing, I don't see how you're losing as long as you're enjoying it. So, yeah, those are my pieces of advice.
L ain't for loss, it's for learn, for sure.
Exactly, exactly.
But thank you so much for coming out, brother.
Of course.
And I appreciate it. For everyone who's tuned in and listening, thank you guys as well for sticking around to the very end. Be sure to go check out all of those social sites, start following, subscribing. I'm going to link his YouTube down below in the description box, so be sure to go check out his page to get all the latest deck profiles. My name is Player X, and this is the Semi Limited Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and good night.